Hello, BookTube. Well, it's Friday. I want to give you a Friday reads glimpse of the stuff that I'll be reading uh, up until dawn on Monday. And this isn't a complete stack because there's some work stuff that I have to do. But it's characterized by uh, these are a lot of finished copies. It's catch up. Really, this weekend feels like catch up. It's a lot of finished copies of stuff that I meant to read or that I never got advance copies for. It's a very rare instance in which almost everything that I'll be reading this weekend are books that are already in bookstores or that are coming out this month. I don't think I'm planning on reading anything this weekend that's from the summer, for instance, even though there are a couple of so tempting titles. I saw a listing for one today for October that I can't wait to get to, but I don't even know if it's ready yet. So I want to show you them, starting with this one. We've seen it on this channel before, but this is the gorgeous finished copy of this is David Van, Bright Air Black. It's got the finished copy has the deckled edges and the French flaps. It's a paperback original at $16 instead of a $35 hardcover, and it's a historical fantasy. It's a retelling of the myth of Medea and Jason, of the Argonauts fame, and I meant to get to it. I've meant to get to it a couple of times with the advanced copy that I have up on the shelf, but now I have this lovely finished copy, so I'm going to do it this weekend. In fact, I think it will be first. And then we have this. This is Vicious Circle by C.J. Box. This is the latest novel. I think this is 14 or 15 in his Joe Pickett series. Joe Pickett is a game warden. And this is just a photo cover of a guy with a dog on the cover. Is not trying very hard, but I love this series. I actually think it's gotten better as it goes along. Of just Joe Pickett's adventures. He's just an ordinary, honorable guy with a growing family. And one of the reasons that I think that the series gets better as it goes along is because it takes a page from very few. There are very few adventure series, murder mystery series, detective series out there that actually, well, I guess more of them do it now, but once upon a time, very few of them did what C.J. Box has this series do, which is to progress in real time. So the Joe Pickett that we get in this book is much older than the Joe Pickett that we got in the beginning, in the first book, which I think was called Endangered. I think the first one was called Endangered. Well, it doesn't tell me, but one way or another. We follow the story of his family, his growing family, his daughters, his wife, his career. It pays off. The way the author does it really pays off. And he's also pretty good at action at action sequences. I don't actually know what even this one is called. Okay. Yes, all right. I read a blurb for this a couple of books ago. Maybe that was a novel called Endangered. Maybe that's the one that stuck in my mind. A couple of books ago, Joe Pickett killed a bunch of family members and put away in jail a couple of other members of this horrible family, this horrible, twisted, evil family. And in this book, the young man that he puts away gets out of prison and wants nothing but revenge. So it's a classic like that. He starts to target Joe Pickett's family, and it's just, it's just a contemporary action thriller with a small amount of mystery thrown in, and I really like those kinds of books. I also love series books. I have nothing against them at all. And then the next one is the exact same thing from the same publisher. It's Randy Wade White. This is Mangrove Lightning is a Doc Ford mystery. Doc Ford is a character of his that's appeared in more than 14 books. It's been a long time, since the 90s, I think, that this character's been coming out. Randy Wade White he's a fantastic writer. He's on a sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph level. He's a better writer than C.J. Box, and also in terms of dialogue. His dialogue is just amazing. I swear there are times when you're reading one of his books where you think, boy, this guy could write a whole book in dialogue, and you wouldn't lose anything. Except sometimes he has to stop and describe things, and his descriptions are really good too. And that's one of the nice things about reading a book in a long series like this, the Doc Ford series with his sidekick, and the way that White evokes the Florida Keys is just amazing. He's the foremost writer of Florida that I know of, and one of the payoffs of reading books and series like this, especially when it's been so long, is that the writer has by now, White has by now, and Box too, and a couple of others, Nance and the Robert Parker when he was alive, and a bunch of other people. When you write this kind of thing, this kind of borderline murder mystery action thriller type thing, for so long with the same characters, you develop, if you're good, and he's one of the best, you develop a real talent for inviting in new readers while you simultaneously pay off your old readers. Now, I don't know, and a thing like this, I don't know if there will be any new readers. I don't know if you pick this up. I mean, the publisher's trying, they will do their best not to stress that this is, I don't even know, what is this? See, the ordinary bookbinding publisher will not get a pub sheet. It's probably a good thing. Yeah, this is the 24th book in the series. Okay, that's worse than I thought. 10 more books than Joe Pickett. That's amazing. And of course, you won't, if you're a publisher, you won't stress that. But even so, I don't know. I'm trying to picture, these things will be on Barnes & Noble front tables, stacked probably next to each other. And I don't know who would pick this up and say, well, gee, that sounds interesting, when they must get the impression, even if they look at the list of previous books, they will see in an instant that they're coming 24 books late to the party. I don't know who would buy it and read it under those circumstances. I don't know. Would you? If you could see that it wasn't the first in the series, that it wasn't even the fifth in the series, I don't know. I've always wondered about that. It's been a long time since I had to worry about it, so it sort of slips my mind. But if you're in any doubt, I'm sure this book will be good. He's really good. So is C.J. Box. They know what they're doing. Let's see here. What have we got here? Okay, then a couple of histories. And this one is big, and I've been meaning to get to this for a while. This is Lindell Roper's biography of Martin Luther, and I got the finished copy with the decal edges and nice solid chunk to it. And when I got the finished copy, I realized that I hadn't read it yet. I kept putting it off, and I think this comes out. This might even be out in bookstores already. Yeah, this comes out in mid-March, in just a week. So it's high time that I read it. I feel, I mean, I guess really one of the reasons why I didn't gobble it down right away is because I didn't manage to interest anybody in paying me to read it. So I just sort of let it go. I put it on the back burner. So that's a bad thing. I should watch to make sure I don't keep doing that. I've read a lot about Martin Luther, including Ronald Baton's great book, Here I Stand, which is just a fantastic 20th century biography. So I'll have that in mind when I read this, and I don't know how it'll stack up, but, that's not always the most important thing. I've learned this over and over again in the course of the last 10 years, that the most important thing is the wit and the presence of mind that the writer brings to the material, regardless of how familiar the material is. So I'll give it a try. The next one is Reagan Rising. It's by Craig Shirley. And this is, the subtitle is The Decisive Years, 1976 to 1980, otherwise known as the Wilderness Years, the years when Reagan was sort of adrift and didn't really know what he wanted to do. It was more and more thinking about politics. It was more and more thinking about a national career. Well, actually, let's in 1976, when Ronald Reagan narrowly lost his bid for the GOP presidential nomination to Gerald Ford, most observers believed Reagan's political career was over. Yet 1 year later, at the annual Conservative Political Action Conference, Reagan sounded like a new man. He introduced conservatives to a new Republican Party, one that looked beyond the traditional country club and corporate boardroom base to embrace the man and woman in the factories and the farm and the cop on the beat. The former governor's political philosophy wasn't the only thing that was changing. A new man was emerging as well. The angry anti-communist was evolving into a more reflective, thoughtful, hopeful, spiritual leader. He championed the individual at home, rejecting containment and détente abroad, and advocating the defeat of Soviet communism. His appeal crossed party lines. And I've read every Reagan biography that there is, and I've read a couple of books on this period. But Craig Shirley, he's fantastic. He's a really good writer on Reagan. It's a little bit um, excitable, but I really like the way he uses the sources, and that's important because in the case of Reagan, I know the source material as well as he does. So again, like the point I made with the Martin Luther biography, a lot will come down to the author's execution, to the author's marshaling of what he's assembled, and the points that he makes, and maybe the connections that he draws that I might not have drawn. So, but this also comes out in this is also a March book. I'm so behind on these things, or I feel like I am. Where have we got here? This is mid-March as well, I believe. No, well, March 21st. Okay, but even so, it's a Reagan book. I should have had it done a long time ago. And then two graphic novels. I got one in the mail that's new. This is called Road to Riverdale, believe it or not. This is you know how when something is a comic book and then it becomes a TV adaptation or a movie adaptation. A lot of times in the present day, the publisher of the comic books will slap together a bunch of key or maybe not so key reprints into a book and call it The Road to or Prelude to or something like that, to sort of tie in to the show. And Riverdale is Archie and Jughead and Betty and Veronica, that ancient cartoon, ancient comic series, it's been made into a WB style cast of tobacco addict hotties, posturing and pouting, at regular intervals every week. And this is that. This is the cover is a photo illustration of the cast. That's why these characters don't look anything like the cartoon versions that you'd be familiar with. And what this is just a reprint of a series of standalone issues. And it interests me because I know some of the writers and some of the artists in here, and some of them are really good. There's one in here with illustration by Adam Hughes, which those of you who are familiar with the comic book world, he's great. Comic book artists don't get much better than Adam Hughes, especially drawing luscious women. It's kind of a hallmark specialty of his. And I don't know I don't think I've read any of the comics. I think I pretty much avoided them. I might have gotten the first issue of the new Archie comic that came out last year, but if I read it, it made no impression on me whatsoever, and that's in here. So I will read The Road to Riverdale and see what I make of it. I have no idea. It's I'm perfectly willing to give it a shot, especially since I didn't pay for it. I'm not invested in liking it or not. I'm glad to just go into it with an open mind and see what it does for me. And then the last thing I want to show you today, again, this is not the whole list, but you have to keep in mind, this is not bragging or unrealistic. The CJ Box book, Vicious Circle, is going to take me it's going to take me a little over an hour to read. And Mangrove Lightning by Randy Wayne White is going to take me a little over an hour to read. Those two books together represent maybe 150 minutes of reading, maybe 180 minutes of reading. So when you're talking about something like that, I mean, the Martin Luther book will take longer, and I'll read it with a pencil in hand, and the Reagan book will take longer than either of the two thrillers, but it won't take me that long. The Martin Luther book will be the time suck. The Reagan book, I already know every single detail. I know every single quote. I know every single public appearance and speech. I know every single twist and turn in the personal life of Ronald Reagan during those years that are covered in that book. And that helps with speed. So the Ronald Reagan book, I doubt it will take me a full 2 hours to read. So we're talking, it won't happen like this because I won't do it all in one stretch, but we're talking Vicious Circle, Mangrove Lightning, and Reagan Rising, all together being the work of maybe 4 hours out of, all of tonight, all of Saturday, and all of Sunday, and all of Sunday night. So it's not like I'm not trying to make unrealistic claims here. There will be time left over for me to do the mountain of writing that I have to do. And there'll also be time for other books. I'm sure, for instance, the one thing you'll notice is not here. This next thing is the only example I'll be showing today is rereading. But a weekend doesn't go by when I don't do a lot of rereading. But anyway, The last thing I want to show you today is rereading, and it's this. It's from ages ago. It's Chris Claremont and Frank Miller. Thin graphic novel just called Wolverine. When did this come out? This collects 4 issues from the 1980s, I believe. Well, the introduction is 1987, but I believe the issues were earlier than that. And it's just it's the Chris Claremont iteration of the character Wolverine, only in a standalone 4-issue miniseries where he goes to Japan. And I remember reading it in individual issues at the time and thinking, wow, this is weird. This is really weird. Chris Claremont has decided, probably with Frank Miller's help, has decided that in this miniseries we're going to take this superhero Wolverine and make him not act like a superhero. We're going to put him in some sort of James Clavell style action thriller in which one character happens to have unbreakable adamantium claws. And I got the first issue and started to thumb through it and thought, oh, this is what's going on here. And 2 things struck me almost immediately. One, better Frank Miller artwork than anything he had done before on Daredevil, for instance. There's just a level had been reached, had been jumped to. And 2, the juxtaposition works. It works like crazy. But and then I got the graphic novel, which is not this one. I got the first graphic novel that they made years ago, and got rid of it. God knows where it is. I must have given it away to somebody. Got a second graphic novel, reprint, got rid of it. Because in the meantime, after this thing was collected, after these 4 issues came out, in the meantime, Chris Claremont, Frank Miller, and Wolverine all became these stratospheric stars. So Marvel has been reprinting this forever. I don't remember when I got this reprint or where I got it. I'm sure I did it comparatively recently, but I haven't read it. Just sat down and read it cover to cover in years, and I want to give it a try. I want to see, especially since friends of mine have done nothing but rave about Logan, the movie that's in theaters now. Logan, Hugh Jackman's last performance as the character Wolverine, and I haven't gone to see it. Movies are so problematic for me now. They take time. They annoy me because people behave abominably at movies, and I'm just not wired anymore to ignore it. I'm just not. I've watched this change in myself, and it has somewhat alarmed me. I just can't do it anymore. When I worked in retail, I had the usual thick skin in retail towards anything, and that has gone away. I didn't think it would, but it's gone away. Now, when I'm out in public and somebody does something egregiously rude, I snap at them. I tell them, do you want to knock that off? Or worse. A guy on the subway just the other day was standing, legs apart, directly in the doorway. And he had headphones on, and he was scowling into the train, and at every stop, people were squeezing by him on either side, or going to another door. And when the train was rumbling along, and I was standing up, I was holding onto a bar, I had my bag on my shoulder, I wasn't reading anymore, and I was near him. I looked over and I said to him, I'm not going to squeeze by you. If you block that door at the next stop, I'm going to walk right through you. Now, you can't say that in retail to anybody, and you can't really say it in public. You can, but I don't want to. If I don't have to, I don't want to. If I go to see Logan in the theater, I know what's going to happen. I'm not going to be sitting there for having paid $20 or whatever a movie costs now. I'm not going to be sitting in that seat for more than 5 minutes before somebody gets a phone call and takes it in their seat. Says, yeah, how you doing? Yeah, I'm in the movie. Yeah, I just started. Looks really good. As if no one else were present. As if no one else had paid money to sit there and watch this thing without listening to you talk on your phone. I know that within 5 minutes of sitting down that would happen. And I have a friend who works in Hollywood, and she often gets me electronic screeners of movies, and I think I will just ask her if she has a file for Logan and just watch it. That's what I usually do when I absolutely want to watch something, but I absolutely don't want to go to the movie theaters, and it tends to work out rather well, especially since in this case there's nothing even unethical about her doing that. All she has to do is to tell her boss, she's in charge of distributing these things to people in the review world, and she can legitimately tell her boss, well, my friend's a reviewer. These Hollywood types don't inquire, and I have been known to review movies. Occasionally I do it, so it's not even unethical. Anyway, I don't know why I'm making all these excuses for all these things that none of you are accusing me of. I'm going to wrap up for now. So that is, I've got Wolverine, this 40-year-old thing, and then The Road to Riverdale. Let's look at the melodramatic cover again. Ooh. And then Reagan Rising, about the wilderness years before the presidency. Then Martin Luther, Renegade and Prophet. Then Mangrove Lightning. And then C.J. Box, this is Vicious Circle. And then Bright Air Black, a historical reimagining of Medea, the myth of Medea. That is my my Friday reads, my weekend TBR, I guess you would call it, with additions to come. And there'll be no subtractions. I definitely want to read all of these things, but there'll be additions. There'll be work and rereading and whatnot. But I just want to show you those, and feel free to tell me in the comments field what you're reading this weekend. I'd love to hear it. I don't know, in this little tradition that we've got, I don't know if I can get the baby to look up. She's, how you doing, little girl? Can you get onto the camera? Ooh. All right, you did good. Anyway, I'll see you soon, BookTube. Thank you.